So now let's get to France. Now, Champagne was basically a happy accident, and it was Dom Perignon who understood that if during fermentation a bottle was kept sealed, what would happen was the carbon dioxide that is a natural occurrence in fermentation would remain in the bottle. And I believe the phrase was something to the effect that he was tasting little stars in the glass. And it's that effervescence that really tends to separate true champagne in its characteristic from sparkling wine from around the world. There's another phrase, the smaller the bubble, the better the bubbly. And this is where in France I think you begin to separate things. Now, just to confuse matters more, there are a number of different types of champagne that are made. Champagne is classically made from 3 different grapes. Chardonnay, which we all know quite well, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. Pinot Meunier used a little bit less, so classically it's mostly Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. If it's all Chardonnay, it's called a Blanc de Blanc, a white of white. If it's all Pinot Noir, it can still be a Brut, but it'll never be called a Blanc de Blanc. And Pinot Noir tends to add a greater depth. Now the one thing about Pinot Noir is that it is a red grape. However, like all grapes, the pulp of the grape is really basically white. So what we find is, even though we have these numbers of different layers of quality, where we have the standard Brut and non-vintage, then you may have a Brut vintage, you may have a Blanc de Blanc, you also have rosés. And this is where the versatility really comes. When you have Pinot Noir in a wine, it tends to add greater depth. And even though champagne is thought of as something that you begin the meal with, or perhaps more like a white wine, because it's made with a red grape, it tends to have enough depth to be able to match even up with steak and richer foods. And that's the thing that I think is fascinating about champagne, and the thing that I don't think people really understand quite as much is that it's so versatile with food.